everybody. It's me, Crystal. It's been a little while, but I was doing a little bit of my own work this morning and really kind of came to a realization that or it was really clarified for me. And what I wanted to do was just provide a short little discussion for you. And what it has to do with is the true purpose for twin flames in terms of really kind of pulling some things out that we hear um, that's based upon language that may not really be helping you to understand what you're intended to be doing. Okay, and it can get very confusing sometimes. And so, because when I was first going through awakening, I'm going to discuss the differences between awakening and ascension. I think that's incredibly important for you to understand that. Okay, there's a big, huge difference there. Okay, so that's where I'm going to start. Okay, and then hopefully what I'm going to do is move into a discussion of what we're truly here to balance. Okay, all right. So first of all, um, awakening is not the twin flame journey. Okay, awakening happens when we come into contact with our twin or before. There's some sort of uh, understanding that it is time to begin shedding the old architecture of how we made sense of things, our old belief systems, our old ways of looking at things, and our own views of who we are. So here's the thing, our spirit is our conscious self-awareness. That's your spirit. And in other talks that I've given, I've really tried to help you understand that that old architecture has to do with the ways that you were taught about who you are and the value that you bring. Okay, this is so important because the twin flame journey, and anybody's journey, really, it is one of potential. Well, with twin flames, the journey is ascension. Okay, that is higher levels of consciousness, conscious awareness. Okay, those levels are called densities. Okay, that's ascension. That's a spiritual journey. That is the twin flame journey. Okay, super important. Okay, so the awakening is the ego death, the dark night of the soul. And some people say, oh, that's the twin flame journey. No, it's not. And I want you to understand how important this is that you understand this. If that wasn't redundant. Okay. If you think that's the journey, you will spend all your time trying to fix yourself and thinking this other person's a mirror of you and they're doing something that has some sort of impact on you in a way that it doesn't need to have an impact on you. Okay. When you meet your twin, your energy connects through that recognition. Okay, the soul recognition activates oftentimes the Kundalini awakening. Now, what that means is that is a sacred infrastructure of your chakras. Okay, however, it's very lower chakra oriented sometimes for those of us that have not healed. Okay, so I'm going to draw this out. And I've done this, my stick figure drawing for you before. But with twin flames, yay, hi, I'm a twin flame. Hopefully you can see this. Um, anyway, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wait. And then, okay, so it's an octave, okay? But when it's your lower chakras, these chakras are based upon your root chakra, which is whether or not you are still living through a sense of need for safety. Okay, that's over here. That's a low vibe frequency coming through the base of your spine. Okay, and if you're raised in a way where you really didn't feel safe about who you were or the value you brought, that's where you're vibing from. Okay, and it means that your lower chakras, all the way up to your heart, are putting out a magnetic field that is coming from a place where you don't really know who you are. Okay, now if you're vibing like that, and you meet your twin, that's the dynamic that's going to be happening there. And they're not doing anything on purpose any more than anybody else is, okay? Any more than you would be. They can only respond to you in a particular way. And they're not, and because of who you both are, coming from the same oversoul, they cannot repair this for you. It is not part of their awakening process. Their awakening, potentially, in response. So the divine feminine experiences the awakening first. And these chakras, if they're not lined up and healed, and they're not coming from a place of dignity, we've got safety, and then we've got dignity. If you're not coming from the place of dignity, where you know I'm bringing value to this situation, I bring value into the rooms I step into, and I'm not arrogant about it. I just know my inherent value as a human being. Okay? This is your work through the ego death, through shadow work. And all shadow work is embracing those tools that that you used to tell yourself the value you brought when you weren't learning it from your parents. Okay? That's all that is. Embrace those tools and let them go. That's shadow work. Okay? Now, when we can come from a place of dignity, our energy is going to flow very differently. Okay? And through that process, our energy will line up and flow, and we are balanced. Because once it gets here, your throat chakra, you can step into your life, your voice is aligned up with who you truly are and the value you bring. Then your third eye can make you privy to the proper vision for yourself, and you can connect with your higher self. Up here, the crown chakra is basically the neurons and the different glands that are producing a particular vibration based upon all of the alignment all the way up to your brain, okay? And how you're making sense of stuff. Does that make sense? So that's your crown chakra, and it'll flow out. And when you're balanced, that's the end of the awakening. Then you begin the true twin flame journey, which is that of ascension. And that is higher levels, density levels. Okay? Now, what I'm going to just say for the next part of this is, so this is where we're like, la, 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 la. When we get to that closing of the octave, that's the 8th chakra. That's your higher self. You can connect with your higher self, which is the best version of yourself. And your spiritual view of the world and the value you bring is the beginning of the ascension process, because it's a spiritual journey. Okay? Now, I think I'm going to just be sort of quick about this and potentially do another video a little bit more about ascension. But here's what's important, just because I brought it up at the beginning. What's important about this spiritual journey is people are like, oh, divine masculine, as if it's a human being, and divine feminine, as if it's a human being. It is not your title as a human being. You're not a divine human being. Okay? And I see that sometimes in the commentary when people are like, oh, well, he can't, you're divine masculine, and it's perfect. It can't, nobody can make mistakes because it's perfect. No, it's not. We're human beings. And until we get this figured out, it's just going to be whatever kind of hot mess or not hot mess, depending on who you two are. Okay? So that expectation of twins, it isn't abusive. It can get pretty messy sometimes. So don't place these standards upon yourself because you're accessing information that's making this like divine masculine is a human being. Divine masculine is those are words that human beings created to represent an energy dynamic. Okay? And divine masculine, what our role is as twins in the collective consciousness, there's a toxic toxic masculinity and a toxic femininity. And that femininity should have learned how to receive. Femininity is an energetic dynamic. It is not a human being. It's an energy of receiving, because that's the natural sacred order of things. The masculine energy is balanced action. Now, that's within one person. When I know I've gone through the awakening and I'm onto the spiritual journey, I understand I don't have to deserve what I receive from the divine creator. It's there for me. And my gifts, I begin to build out my gifts and focus on those things. Okay. And in doing so, I release the counterpart from being responsible for me having value through that person. That person is released and then can just make their own decision. I can decide to take balanced masculine action because she or he has let me go. They're focusing on who they are. Now, after this little time of being like, oh, with each other, I feel safe and comfortable if I decide through my free will to learn about balanced masculine action. Okay, that is a choice and it does not represent who you are. That person has their own issues. And if you continue to allow them to come back in unbalanced ways, they're not going to learn. Okay, that is the twin flame journey of ascension. You're healing the collective consciousness by balancing yourself. And in so doing, divine feminines, allowing him or her to understand what it's like to take action without somebody creating an environment that placates them or nurtures the wrong things in them. Okay? So I really want you to understand that. Uh, all right, I think I'm going to stop there. If you want to leave any comments, please do. Um, I enjoy the questions people have, and I do want to be of service. I'm a twin flame, and I didn't have guidance when I was going through my awakening. And there's a lot of information out there, and it's not all coming from a healed place. And so I do healings. I do this work with lots of people, not just twin flames. Okay, and I really want you to understand that. Okay, all right. Everybody, take care and have a wonderful day.